Okay, we're back for part 3, and here's the assignment that you have for this script. And I've highlighted what you need to do. So let's copy this and take it over to R, and, uh, and there we go. Um, and I realized maybe I hadn't shared that part of the screen, so I'm not quite sure what you saw there. But let's paste it. This is from the assignment. So we need a table of descriptive statistics. And we want to be careful because this panel, as I said, is not balanced. And we want a scatter plot, and we'll delete this with GDP on the x-axis. And we want another scatter plot, and we want a table of regression results with marriage rates as the outcome and some explanatory variables for the WGI, right? So that's what we want. So let's think about our table of descriptive statistics. So one thing we could do is we could create a table that we could modify the data so that we're going to create an average for every country for every 5-year period, right? So for every 5-year period, however many observations we have from that country. So remember, if we go back to the African data or to the whole data, let's maybe use the whole world's data here for this. So we have our DF, and instead of just limiting it to African data, we'll use the whole world data. So what we'll do is we'll take every country's average married value for, let's pick, so we'll go up here to where we had the, sorry, right here. So instead of, we'll take the women's marriage rates, but we won't limit it to Africa. We'll just do the whole world here. So we'll say DF women married 20. So we have sex equals women, marital status equals married, age start equals 20. Okay, so that wasn't limited to Africa there. So, but let's make it age start. Let's do a table of the age start again. Table DF $ age start. And let's see what that looks like. Looks like we have 20,000. We have 5,000 observations for age 20. We have let's do age 25. So just to be different, so we'll do the age start equals 25. So we're going to run that, and how many observations? We have 568 observations now. So this is our age group. It's typically gonna, is it all gonna be 25 to 29? Looks like indeed that's, sometimes it's 25 to 39, 25 to 34, but mostly it's 25 to 29. So we do have 2 cases, Mayotte and Tunisia, where the age range is bigger. We're not going to worry about that, right? But notice as we noted before, we have multiple observations per country. So Algeria, I think we had 2 in 2012. So we're going to group these by 5-year intervals. So we're going to create, we're going to group the start years, and let's go, I think we can, let's filter to be after 1969, so just after 1970. So we'll do the same thing again. So we'll take our data sets, and we're going to pipe it into the Command Shift M. We're going to pipe it into the filter so that we are just looking at ones after 1970. So how many, that changes it by a few, right? Now we're down to 548 observations. And now what we want to do is create a new variable that's going to be like, we'll call it half decade. So we'll copy this again, and we'll do this real time. So we're going to mutate is going to create a new variable, and we'll call it half decade. And we'll say if else. So now we have our if else, now we have our conditions. Look at if else, it's a test, what's the condition, and then comma, what to do if it's true, and then comma, what to do if it's not. So half decade, our condition is going to be, is if, year is less than 1975 and year greater the 1969. So we'll do that half decade. Then it's going to be 1970. So it's between 1970 and 1975. Now, if it's not true, if it's not between those, then we'll just do another if else. I'm going to actually put this down over here. I'll put this down here because I want to make this be real transparent. So I'm just adjusting this here. And now we're going to go, if it's not in that period, then we'll have another if else. So if the year is less than 1980, so in other words, if it's between 1975 and 1980, then we'll call it 1975. Now we just do the same thing multiple times. I'll do it once, and then I'm going to copy and do it really fast. So if else, if it's less than 1985, that'll be 1980. And now I can go, I'm going to just copy these and go faster. So if it's less than 1990, then that'll be 1985. And if it's less than 1995, we'll call that 1990. That's the half decade that starts in 1990. And then this has to be 2000. That didn't get me anywhere. So then this would be 1995. And then this would be 2005. So that would be 2000. And then I think we just need one more. So if it's less than 2010, then it'll be 2005. And then our last alternative, if it's not any of those, then it's 2010. And now we close out all these parentheses that we open, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Notice how we get little X marks here. And I think now I did it, right? So that's good. So now we're going to have a new variable called half decade. So we run this and we notice here, we can look at it visually. We have half decade and here's the year. So 77, the half decade is the decade that starts in 1975. Here's 92, the half decade is 1990. Here's 2002, the half decade is 2000. Here's 2006, the half. So it looks like it's right. Let's just do some random more ones. 1980, 1980, 1997, the half decade is 95. 2009, the half decade is 2005. So they're all grouped by half decade now. Why did we do that? Well, what we want to do is for whenever we have two observations, we want to take the average of those two observations, and we want to have, for every country, we want to just have its half decade. So we're just going to average all the observations that we observe in a half decade for the country. So we're going to group by, so we'll take our same data set and we'll assign it back to the same data set. Now we're going to group by, half decade, and the country. What's the country code? We just call it country. So we're going to group, we could use the ISO code, or ISO. Let's do it by ISO 3C just because the country name may have changed over time. So we're going to group by the half decade and the ISO code. And what we're going to do is we're going to summarize, and we're going to call it the MAR rate. And we're going to take the equals the mean of the data value, whatever that data value. Remember, we can take the mean now because we only have the same women, the same age group, 30 to, what was it, 25 to 29, and we have the same country. So we're just averaging across the 5 years of observations. Some of them might be in the same year, some of them might be in different years. So we're just going to have one observation for every half decade for the country. I think that's all we need to do. So we're going to get a new variable called marriage rate, and we'll double check this. And I did something wrong. I have one too many parentheses here, so let's try it again. There we go. So now we'll look at it, and yeah, there's our marriage rate for, let's sort by Angola. So for Angola, we just observed 3 half decades. For BDI, which I have no idea what country that is, maybe it's Burundi, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 half decades. So we observe countries, for some countries we observe for every half decade. Burkina 1980, 85, 80, 90, 95, 2000, 2005, 2010. So now we're closer to a balanced panel. We're observing almost every country for the half decade. So we're getting closer to a balanced panel. Let me stop there, and I'll save this as part 4.